Hello, family. I want to give a huge shout out to everyone watching from all around the world. Your support means the world to me. This week, I'd like to send special love to my viewers from Jamaica, Trinidad, and St. Louis, MO. Thank you for being part of this journey. I truly appreciate every one of you. She thought his mother was deaf, couldn't hear a word. Jade believed she had the perfect plan. Marry Michael, steal his money, and leave him behind. But what happens when the woman she's been mocking and manipulating reveals she's heard everything? In a house full of secrets, it's Jade who's about to be outplayed. Jade stepped out of the car, her heels clattering sharply against the cobblestone driveway. She adjusted her sunglasses, tilting her head just enough to glance up at the mansion before her. It was a beautiful home, elegant and sprawling, with well-tended gardens and ivy creeping up the stone walls. But despite the beauty of the place, Jade felt nothing but a creeping irritation. The sun blazed brightly, but her mood was anything but light. She had only agreed to this trip because Michael had insisted, practically begged her to visit his childhood home and meet his mother before their wedding. In her mind, it was an unnecessary formality. The date was already set, the rings bought, and the future wealth she had been chasing was finally within her grasp. What did it matter if his mother approved? Jade thought bitterly. It's Michael's bank account I'm marrying, not his family. The door creaked open and an older woman stepped out onto the porch. Jade barely looked at her. A fleeting glance was all she needed. The woman's hair was streaked with gray, her posture slightly hunched, her simple housecoat suggesting someone who spent more time inside than out. Must be the maid, Jade thought dismissively. She didn't even bother with a proper greeting. Jade waved toward the car trunk, her impatience seeping into her tone. "Hey you, take my bags inside," she ordered, her voice sharp, already fraying at the edges. The woman didn't respond. Instead, she looked at Jade with a warm, soft smile, a look that seemed almost out of place for a servant. Her hands rested gently at her sides, her eyes watching as if waiting for something. Jade frowned, irritated at being ignored. "Are you deaf or something?" she snapped, her voice cutting through the peaceful surroundings. "I said, take my bags inside." Again, the woman remained where she stood, her face unmoved, her expression unchanged. That same smile lingered, though her brow furrowed slightly, as if she were trying to puzzle something out. Jade huffed in frustration. She reached for her phone, pulling it from her bag with an angry flick of her wrist. She'd send a quick text to her best friend, telling her all about this frustrating help she had to deal with. But before she could type anything, the door behind the woman opened wider and Michael appeared, stepping out into the sunlight with his easy, boyish grin. "Babe," he called, jogging down the steps to greet her. He kissed her cheek, though Jade barely acknowledged it, too busy fuming over the situation with the bags. "Everything okay?" "Not really," Jade muttered, crossing her arms and shooting a quick glance at the older woman still standing by the door. "Your maid here won't listen to me. I've asked her twice to take my bags inside, and she's just standing there." Michael's face changed in an instant, his easy grin fading into something more serious, almost tense. He looked over at the woman on the porch, and for the first time, Jade noticed something unusual in the way he studied her. "Jade," he said softly, his tone full of quiet correction, "that's not the maid, that's my mother." Jade's stomach dropped, the color draining from her face in an instant. "Your mother?" she echoed, her voice suddenly weak. She turned back to the older woman, now realizing the warm, puzzled smile had never been one of confusion, but kindness. Panic flared in Jade's chest. Michael's mother. She'd just spoken to her future mother-in-law as if she were a servant. Her heart raced as she tried to recover, forcing a strained laugh. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," Jade stammered, stepping forward in a flurry of false humility. "I had no idea. You should have told me, Michael." She shot him a pleading glance, but he remained still, watching her closely. I thought she was someone else." The older woman's expression remained calm, though her eyes now lingered on Jade a moment longer. Michael's mother gave a small nod, but didn't speak. Jade felt a wave of discomfort rolling through her, but she quickly masked it with a bright, apologetic smile. "Really, Ma, I didn't mean anything by it." Michael stepped in, his voice quiet but firm. "Jade, my mother can't hear you." Jade blinked, confused. "What?" "She's deaf," Michael explained gently, his gaze holding hers. "She lost most of her hearing in an accident a few years ago." The relief that flooded Jade's chest was almost immediate. "If she's deaf, she didn't hear me," Jade thought, feeling the tension melt away. She laughed awkwardly, waving off the moment with a small chuckle. "Oh, that's such a relief. I mean, not that she's deaf. No, of course not. But at least she didn't hear me say those things. I'm just flustered from the long trip, you know?" Michael didn't say anything. His eyes lingered on her a little too long, as if he were searching for something more beneath her words. But Jade quickly pushed the moment aside. "She's deaf," she reassured herself. "There's no harm done." As the days went by, Jade fell into a rhythm with Michael and his mother, though the quiet of the house often gnawed at her nerves. Michael's mother was always there, quiet, observing, knitting in the corner of the living room or sipping tea at the kitchen table. Jade found it unnerving how the woman would silently watch her, those soft eyes always trained on her, even if she couldn't hear a word. Still, Jade thought, this is perfect. She could say whatever she wanted around the old woman, vent her frustrations, and not worry about a single word being overheard. One afternoon, as Michael was out handling business in town, Jade sat in the living room, scrolling through her phone. She could feel the older woman's eyes on her from the far side of the room, where she was busy with her knitting. Jade couldn't help but sneer to herself. "I swear, I'm doing all the work around here," she muttered, knowing full well the woman couldn't hear her. "I'm practically a maid myself, not that it'll matter in a few weeks. Once I've got what I need, I'll be out of here." The knitting needles paused just for a second, but then continued clicking softly together. Jade, lost in her thoughts of escape, didn't notice. Later that night, when Michael was still working late, Jade received a text from Derek, her secret lover. A sly smile tugged at the corners of her lips as she read his message. He was eager to know when they'd finally be able to make their escape, once she had Michael's money. She texted him back quickly, her fingers flying across the screen. "Soon," she promised. "A few more weeks, and we'll have everything we need." Jade glanced over her shoulder. Michael's mother sat near the window, knitting quietly, her face serene, almost unaware of the world around her. Feeling a surge of confidence, Jade stood up and wandered toward the hallway, pressing her phone to her ear as she called Derek. "Hey, babe," Jade cooed into the phone, her voice dripping with sweetness. "I miss you. Not long now, and we'll be free of this place." Derek's deep voice purred on the other end. "You sure everything's set? You're getting the money?" "Of course," Jade said smugly, glancing back at Michael's mother, who was still knitting peacefully by the window. "Michael's completely wrapped around my finger. Once we're married, the money's mine. And his mom." She let out a soft, dismissive laugh. "She's no problem at all. She's deaf, doesn't know a thing. I could say whatever I want in front of her, and she'd just keep knitting." Derek chuckled on the other end. "She sounds harmless." "Completely," Jade agreed, her tone full of self-satisfaction. "She's practically invisible. Honestly, she's useless. Once I get the money, I'm gone, and Michael's just a distant memory." She ended the call with a smug smile. Confident, that everything was falling perfectly into place. But the next few days brought a creeping unease. Michael's mother had always been quiet, always watching, but now it felt like there was something different about the way she looked at Jade. Her gaze lingered a little longer. Her expression seemed less soft, more knowing. Jade found herself growing restless, wondering if the old woman could somehow sense the lies hanging in the air. One evening, Michael came home with thrilling news. "The deal went through," he exclaimed, sweeping Jade into a hug. "We're going to be set. The money's coming in any day now, and we'll be able to live the life we've always dreamed of." Jade's heart fluttered with greed. Perfect, she thought. This is it, the final piece of the puzzle. As they sat down for dinner that night, Jade couldn't help but feel a smug sense of victory. She had played the perfect part, charming Michael, enduring his mother's silent company, and soon she would be gone, leaving him and his deaf, oblivious mother behind. But just as she was savoring her silent triumph, Michael's mother gently set down her fork and pushed back her chair. The sound of the chair scraping against the floor sent a shiver down Jade's spine. "I think it's time we had a conversation," Michael's mother said, her voice calm but unmistakably clear. Jade froze, her heart leaping into her throat. "What?" she stammered, her pulse quickening. Michael's eyes met hers across the table, his face unreadable. Slowly, he put down his glass, his movements deliberate. "She can hear you, Jade." Jade's blood ran cold. "What?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Michael leaned forward, his gaze hardening. "My mother, she's not deaf." Jade's mouth went dry, her heart thudding in her chest like a drum. "But you said—" "I said she lost some of her hearing," Michael corrected quietly, "but she's not completely deaf, not even close." Jade's world tilted, the walls of the room closing in on her. She turned slowly to face Michael's mother, whose once soft, quiet expression had transformed into something much sharper, something much more knowing. "I heard everything," Michael's mother said, her voice steady but cold. "Every word, every insult, every plan to take my son's money and run away with your lover." Jade's hands trembled, her mind racing. No, you don't understand," she stammered, her voice shaking. "I didn't mean any of it. I love Michael." Michael stood up from the table, his face twisted in anger and betrayal. "Love me?" he spat. "You've been lying to me this entire time. I trusted you, and all you cared about was my money." Jade reached for him, desperation clawing at her throat. "Michael, please, I can explain. It's not what you think. "Stop," Michael said coldly, pulling away from her grasp. "It's over, Jade." Tears welled in her eyes, but they weren't from regret. They were from fear that everything she had carefully built, all her plans, were crumbling around her. "Michael, please," she sobbed, her voice breaking. "Give me another chance. I'll change, I swear." But Michael's face had hardened into something unrecognizable. "You've shown me exactly who you are," he said, his voice cold. "Pack your things and get out." Jade stood there for a moment, frozen in shock. But there was nothing left to say. She had played her part, and now the curtain had fallen. As Jade dragged her suitcase down the driveway, her legs heavy with defeat, she glanced back one last time. Michael stood in the doorway, his mother beside him. Their figures, silhouetted against the light, watched her with silent judgment. For a fleeting moment, Jade wondered if she could have done things differently, if she could have loved Michael for real instead of seeing him as just a means to an end. But the thought was fleeting, quickly swallowed by the cold, gnawing emptiness of her own greed. As she disappeared into the night, one truth hung over her like a shadow. In the end, it wasn't her who had fooled them. It was they who had fooled her. The end. Thank you for joining me on this thrilling journey. If you enjoyed the story and want more twists and turns, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for the next one. Your support means everything. See you soon.